Good morning. Welcome to our Ag Market Network review of the latest crop report that just came out a few minutes ago. I'm Pat McClatchy with the Ag Market Network. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Some of the numbers we'll look at. We'll look at what the expectations were for soybeans, corn, wheat, and also cotton, and then we'll look at the reaction of the market and what some of the talk is. Start off with the corn number. The corn number came out, the ending stocks 1.827 billion bushels. Expectations, that was within line with expectations. The average guess was 1.851, so really not that far off. The reaction of the market initially was negative. Going into the report, corn was down 3. It sold off some after the report came out. Now we've got May corn down only a half. So that has firmed back up. Looking at soybeans, the soybean carryout came out at 370 million bushels, very close to the average guess. The average guess was 371 million bushels, but the market reacted in a negative way. Going into the report, beans were already down. I think they'd gotten down at one point, looking at the market here, about 20 or 21 on the day. Going into the report, they'd firmed up and beans were down 12.5. The report comes out, sold off, but right now it's down about 15 to 15.25. So a negative reaction in the bean market with this number. The wheat report carryout came out at 684 million bushels of wheat. The expectation was for 690, so a little bit of a smaller carryout. It was considered a neutral number, maybe even a little bit positive. Going into it, the wheat number was actually down 8. And right now, the wheat number is down 4.5. All the grain numbers have been down in soybeans. Going into the report, we had a very poor export number this morning in soybeans, and that seemed to drag everything else down with it. In addition to that, the dollar is sharply higher on the day. That's typically a negative for all commodities. And we're just seeing also a reaction to wet weather in the Midwest, and generally a thought that the demand is slacked off. Let's now go to cotton. In cotton, the average guess was actually for production 16.17. It was on the high end of that. It came out at 16.30 million acres. So, well, that's production. 16.3. Is the production number. So that was on the high end. That was within expectations, but still a little bit on the high side. Looking at the ending stocks, was expected to be cut in cotton. In fact, it was not. It looks like it was left at 4.4, which is unchanged. And the market at the time this number came out, the cotton market was actually up 21 in May. Right now it's down 12, and it was down about 10 more just a few minutes ago. So we've had a long extended move up in cotton over the last week of over 500 points. Good export figures this morning, and the market has looked exceptionally well given the fact the dollar's up so much and grains are down. So a little bit of a negative reaction from cotton to this number. And there was a thought that exports would be raised. They kept the exports the same. So you'd have to say this number might be just a little bit disappointing for cotton, and we're seeing a little bit of a negative reaction right now. I mentioned the exports this morning. Poor exports for soybeans seem to cause all of the markets to start to sell off in the grains. And with good weather in the Midwest, or wet weather in the Midwest, with poor demand and for a sharply higher dollar, it's very hard for these markets to stay up, with the exception of cotton. Lastly, we'll just talk about the strength in cotton. There are 3 things that have been happening in the market that should actually be negative for cotton. One is the dollar moving higher has historically been a negative for cotton, and yet we've continued to rally this last week. The lower grain prices can influence, at least on the day, can influence cotton. We've not seen that either. And generally going into this report, the market has shown not a lot of caution going into the report. So the tightness in the cotton market continues. We're trading at 66.70 right now. The market got just above 67 yesterday. So that's really it. We just wanted to review these numbers and pass these on to you. And hope you'll join us tomorrow at the Ag Market Network at 7:30 tomorrow morning. We'll have our monthly teleconference with our cotton panel that'll join us to talk about the crop report. And then we'll have a special guest on tomorrow, Bob Antashak, who will talk about cotton and the future of cotton looking out over the next 10 years. I want to make sure you see that. Thanks for joining us today. Hope to see you again next time.